All right. Welcome back, boys, girls, and NBs. Today we have a very special guest, a man that I've been harassing for almost 6 months now. But I'm very thankful for him to come on. It is Chris Wade, producer of Chapo Trap House, host of And Introducing and Hell of Presidents, which I don't know if that you would consider that a podcast or if that's like a special series type of thing.
Oh, it's a podcast, I would say.
Yeah,
Limited audio series. I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
It's amazing. That's what I want to call it. That's when I first hit you guys up. Because this podcast, Hella Presidents, became instantly my favorite podcast. Like overnight, I was anticipating it. I've never sat and anticipated a podcast just so I could be like Mr. Smarty Pants in the conversation the next day.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. That is genuinely so rewarding to hear because, this is the first time it was the first time Matt or I had tried something that ambitious and specific in scope. And we were frankly terrified right before launching it that we were going to bungle it at every point. And, what we were trying to get across with it, wouldn't be clear, that it wouldn't be entertaining, that it would be too dense. But everyone who has said nice things to us is very encouraging and is, everyone who compliments me is just seeding for us to do more of these. So the more nice things you say, the more good content you get.
Oh, fantastic. We'll keep it coming because my biggest compliment for that show was how you kept, again, this is just if you watch Chapo Trap House, you'll understand how you kept Matt on a leash. I don't know how you just didn't let him run away with the show. You're like, all right, bring it back. I'm sure that's some post production magic in there as well, but it seemed very smooth. You're just like, okay, and we're moving.
Well, yeah, it was. I mean, that was one of the parts that was, that we kind of figured out how to do it. And it was a very clean collaboration for us because basically the way that we did the whole show was me just sitting down in a room with Matt, starting from nothing and then going all right, George Washington, and Matt would just talk and I would note it out and create an outline off of that, and then all right, John Adams, and then we'd go through, and then I took everything that he just stream of consciously gave in that perfect fire hose of information and insight and analysis that Matt's capable of. And then I just kind of took that outline and turned it into a script and basically read it back to him and then got his second layer on it. So it's basically all Matt's brain. I put a little vessel around it.
You just got to put the puzzle together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, because it was just literally I was just people were like, well, George Washington did this. I was like, well, also George Washington had all of his blood drained out of him as he died because he was too manly to wear a coat in the rain.
Yes,
shit I've never learned. And I had a teacher on yesterday. Shout out to just Nick Wibben from California. He was telling me about how he teaches in this progressive school and teaches actual history, not general whitewashed and kind of glazed over all this other shit. And I'm like, you got to check this podcast out because you'll learn a lot. Because dude, this is stuff I've never heard in my entire life. And again, it's also with Chapo and even with your and introducing, I'm learning new music I've never even heard of.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, as we were going into this, my number one thing that I wanted the show to be was entertaining, and I think that I try to go into everything, every single episode of Chapo, even when we're doing serious stuff. I mean, my editing and the thing that I'm trying to accentuate is I want it to be fun and funny, and I think that that's what people come for and what gets people interested in. And why I wanted to do the thing in general. Well, again,
I bought the book.
Yeah. And why I wanted to do the President Show is because I was entertained by listening to Matt talk about this, and I knew he had a show's worth of information inside of him.
And then,
but yeah, I think that when we, yeah. And then, but from the historical perspective, I think the thing that we were both very proud of in this is that getting the entirety of American history with a kind of singular viewpoint, constructing it all, the materialist viewpoint that we try to bring to it. And not that I think that this is the making any claim that we made that this is in a definitive history or anything, but you just don't often get that kind of what we were trying to do is have a clarity of purpose in the story that we were telling, because most of the time that you learn history, it's just this happened and then this happened and then this guy did this thing and then this happened and then this happened, and it loses the the sense of analysis, the sense of flow, the sense of some kind of overarching explanation.
Well, there's also, you guys have been working together for years now, so there's this chemistry that was built up between you already that just made it flow so much easier. To especially talking about some of the topics you were talking about, some not so great, like very drab topics, kind of, and to keep that interesting. Again, the series about the lake of shit, I was it. I'm still talking about that. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny to me that people keep bringing that up as one of their favorite episodes, because that particular period of American history, the 1840s, late 1830s, 1840s, like kind of pre-Civil War, I usually feel like is one of the kind of nothing burger ones when you're learning it in high school. It's like, yeah, Mexican American War. This is just a pit stop before we get to the Civil War, on our way from the colonial era and into, or the Revolutionary era, on the way to the Civil War. But there's a lot of fascinating stuff going on there, and then all these guys keep dying all the time, which is hilarious, and it keeps fucking up the whole like political stability. There's like so much drama going on in there, and it's all because of these guys eating shit, and then people who weren't even supposed to be there getting into the present. I'm glad that episode worked so well, because that's for me when I really felt like, as we were producing it, like I think that the show is clicking on our end as well.
well, yeah, like, because that's one of the things I said they gloss over in school. Like, there's like 4 or 5 presidents pretty much in a row that die either in the first term or within 30 days of leaving their first term.
Yes, exactly.
And everyone's like, nah, they were poisoned by their enemies. Like, who are their enemies? Like, no, they were living on the shit. It's like, I just thought that was so something I've never learned, and it's just great. But to just keep it moving, how do you keep it like how do you keep things like fresh and not get drab with like all this editing? Because I just recently started working at a podcast studio, and I'm doing so much editing for all these different shows. Again, I'm at like baby level building blocks mode, right? And I'm producing like all this cryptocurrency podcast. It's what's coming in, like it's who wants to work, but I don't know. It gets a little boring every once in a while.
Well, I mean, I cannot sugarcoat it that I feel like I am one of the luckiest people in this industry, and it is because I genuinely love to listen to what I edit, and so it never gets boring doing an episode of Chapo. And even the last 2 or so episodes, I've been on a bit of a vacation. We have a wonderful guest editor who is actually a guy. He's not online or anything, which is good for him. But he helped me do the entirety of Hell of Presidents. He basically did the complete rough edit of every episode, and then I just went in and like tweak things. So he's great, and he's been handling the edits the last 2. But I will say that even when I'm not editing it, I'm like, ooh, new episode of Chapo I get to listen to. It's I love the material. I love the boys. So it never gets old. And then I think, like, even for and introducing and stuff, Molly and I, my wife, my co-host on that show, I think honestly one of the things that keeps that show so fun for us is that we've never like tried to monetize it. So we never feel like an obligation to do it. It's just always, every time we do an episode, it's because we want to have fun talking about the subject matter. And even when we did like our big We Podicano mini series last year, talking about the Our Band Could Be Your Life bands, and push ourselves to do like an episode every week, when we usually do like 1 or 2 a month for 13 weeks. It felt like a good workout, like let's see if we can book a guest for 13 straight episodes in 13 weeks and like really handle this book in depth. And that kind of like stretching your capacity keeps things fun.
So, all right, my network is slowly growing. Like, how do you book? Like, is booking guests kind of like the same pain in the ass it is for me, or with your network, it is like not as bad?
I mean, I feel like Chapo's lucky because when we usually, people we ask to be on the show are usually know the show or are somewhat fans, or at least even know the show's reputation, and like to are at least titillated by the edginess of it, and are usually fairly excited to make the ask. And intro, it's a smaller show, and we don't have that much notoriety. But usually, when you ask people about something that they're passionate about, they're excited to hop on and
I've noticed that. Yeah.
talk about it. And at least like for you and me right here, as I said before, I feel so blessed by the world of podcasting that basically anyone who asked me to do a show, to just like to do more pods, let them, let a million podcasts bloom. I will do anything. And like you said, it took you like 6 months to book me on, and it was because I was so busy with the Hell of Presidents last
And I was like,
year.
go ahead. Let me leave you alone because I'm eating this content up.
But I was like, I will do the show. It might take a while, but just keep asking me. So I think I don't know, people feel very generous about podcasting. I think, especially when you come at it from a very earnest way of being like, I'm just doing this thing because I love it, and it would mean a lot for me to come on. It's a hard request to turn down, especially when you don't actually have to do anything but talk.
Yeah, just here. I'm like, I'm giving you the link. You don't have to do anything. You're doing extra work by giving me the audio. I just downloaded from Zoom. Again, this helped me just get a job. Like, this is why I made this podcast. Is I was working this back end shitty job, like scrubbing toilets. No, like knock on it. It's like it was a decent job, it was a good union job, but like it's just what I want to do. I went to college for communications, all this stuff. So I'm like, fuck it. Like if I'm not getting a job anywhere else, I'm gonna build a studio here. Like you can see, I don't know if you can see behind me in my thing. I got a double rack piano, I got guitars, cameras, I got everything here. I just built it myself. And I looked through your website and your LinkedIn profile, like your resume and stuff. Kind of see like you did a lot of that same thing. Is that like the normal path?
Well, so my first half of my career, I was like a web video guy, and I worked for a place like Slate and did like digital video for them. SlateMic.com, if you remember that place, MIC, the millennialified news site. And I love doing video stuff, and I loved working for places like Slate, but it was also at the height of the pivot to video, if you remember that, where like basically the entirety of the industry was just like Facebook telling you to do things and you saying, yes, sir, of course, sir, we'll do it. And it was just like generating all this content that nobody actually wanted to watch. Facebook was literally inflating numbers to encourage people to put videos on their site that literally nobody was watching, but they were like making fake numbers about. And at a certain point, it just got like battering to me, and it sucked making content that I knew nobody wanted or liked. And around that time was around when Chapo was starting up, and I was like, this is fun and cool, and I would rather be doing this. So that was one of the reasons, in addition to us just loving to talk to each other, that Molly and I started doing and introducing, because I was like, well, this seems fun. This will be a fun project to do together. And then I will have made a podcast, and then I can go to other people and say, look, I make podcasts. Hire me to do your podcast.
That's exactly.
And so I think you're doing it exactly right.
Yeah. And it's because again, nobody gives you the light of day. I've been the same way aggressively. I came after you. I went after WNYC. I was like, hire me, please. I'm like, it'd be my dream to work at an NPR affiliate like in New York. Like, this would be great. Whatever, just nonsense stuff that you say in cover letters. But like, yeah, I was also genuine. I'm like, I did college radio. Like, I like politics. I like all this fun like things that you guys do. And they're like, leave us alone. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do here?
Well, I will say, and I mean, that people ask me like, occasionally ask me like, how do you get into podcasting? And obviously, like, I don't have any real advice because Chapo is so like ultra specific.
Yeah.
And I basically like, fell into it vaguely accidentally. But, the only thing I will say is just start your own podcast and keep doing it and make it something you love and are interested in doing and want to keep doing. And even if nobody actually listens to it, you'll be able to go to other people who might hire you to do something real and be like, oh, I do this show. Nobody, it doesn't have a huge audience, but I do it because I love it. And you can listen to it and it sounds good. And it shows that I know how to do this thing and that I'm passionate about it. And I think that's about the best advice I can give.
Yeah. And that is very similar advice to what I got from an owner of one of the bigger podcast studios in the city. Like when I first sent her my resume, she's like, yo, you got it. It's low-key impressive, but you need to start adding your name to everything. She's like, no matter the size, no matter the show, just add your name to it. Any retrospect you've been involved with it, boom, you've worked with it. You can add to your resume. I was like, okay, cool. Like, So that's what I'm doing. I took this job at a smaller podcast studio, and like I said, I'm doing a lot of right-wing crypto guys, but that's who's willing to pay the prices that we have to charge. Like it's at the end of the day, it's what it is.
Yeah.
Studio space is not cheap in the city.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but before I was doing Chapo, like one of my only other professional podcasts, I was like editing a podcast for like these people who do like I don't know, not like helping not-for-profits organizations like enhance their web presence. And like part of the things is that they did like a podcast to teach other people how to do podcasts and the value of it. And it's like nobody really listened to this, but it felt important for me to take this job to be like, I got to get in there to be like, I can do this. I can do this professionally, and I have been hired to do this professionally. And then it snowballs.
Yeah, and that's where I'm hoping it kind of it goes. Like I took as I was reading your LinkedIn, I was like, oh my god, like 5 years after college, he got this first big job where it kind of then again snowballed, and it's like literally spot on to like what I'm doing right now, scrubbing toilets, built my own studio. I kind of propped it up as a built self-made business. Right. It's all about how you work things.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, especially in media, everybody's career story, many people's career stories are so bizarre. Like my first paying job out of college was I interned for the PBS affiliate here, and they had me like physically message a tape over to some guy who worked out of the New Yorker hotel. And I just like handed the tape to him, and this guy like probably guy in his 60s, just kind of looked at me and was like, "You edit?" And I was like, I mean, yeah, I know how to use video editing equipment. And he was like, "All right, come upstairs. There's something I want to show you." And I was like, "All right." And he took me upstairs to this editing bay, and I spent the next like almost year following him around New England, going to submarine museums and videoing submarines and editing the footage together for a documentary that he was like self-making with just me and him about the World War II in the North Pacific and like submarine warfare there that he was trying to sell to PBS. And he paid me like nothing. And it was incredibly silly. And I was spending all of my time hanging out with this like 65-year-old guy inside disused submarines. But it was a job, and it was fun, and it's a funny story now. And then I got to be like, yeah, I'm a professional videographer and editor. Yeah, boom, sure, done. You don't have to ask who for or what it's about, but that's it's a foot in the door.
Yeah, that's dude. It's the same thing for me. My internship at my last semester in college at C-SPAN, and I was working with Brian Lamb, like the head guy at C-SPAN down there. I was kind of like his bitch. It was like, bring these books to my office. I'd go run through his office. I'd have to give like tours and stuff to just random people. C-SPAN's a normal office. Like, what you see.
C-SPAN seems like the most normal place in the world.
Again, and where I worked, it was not in the studio area. I only went down to the studio to film our one show a week.
Yeah.
So the guy was like, "Can I see your offices?" We're like, "Yeah, like sure, I guess." Just people sitting there, like sitting and working. But yeah. It was like literally all that though, because I was handing out hats outside the Congress staffers 5:30 in the morning outside train station. You do what you got to do, Dude,
I would love a C-SPAN hat. I think C-SPAN should make like a hype, like a kind of members only jacket. I think that would be some pretty good drip. I would wear that. I would love some C-SPAN merch
around here. I still have a C-SPAN hat and a C-SPAN mug. Yeah, everyone's like, what are you, 75 years old? And I was like, hell yeah, baby, C-SPAN's the best.
Yes. Let's get some more fucking public media, baby. Let's get some good archival videotapes going. We need this.
Very useful, especially for what you do. You can pull up a lot of shit.
It's true. I mean, 10,000 hours of whip counts in the house.
If you need it, it's there. But it's there.
Yeah, it's a necessity.
So you're on vacation now. I know I don't want to
I am
bother you too much on vacation. Keep you in the vacation mood. Don't talk about too much work. Where do you want to say where you are?
Yeah, I'm coming at you from an undisclosed location in beautiful Los Angeles, the city of angels.
Amazing. What's the? I'm sitting here. You're out of Brooklyn, right? So you left. You left at the perfect time. It's been 3 degrees like 2 days ago, and then it was cold and raining. Now it's snowing. It's rough. Yeah. And I anchorman it. I'm in shorts, so I'm freezing.
Yes, I really felt like an escape from New York moment for both of us. It worked out very well that we had a wedding to attend out here in near San Diego. My mom lives in San Diego, so I was visiting her, and then all the Chapos were going to be out here, so made it a little vacation. So yeah,
Are you guys
good to be out of town for. Yeah, I mean, we're recording our normal stuff while we're out here, and then it's going to be like one of the only times this year that all five of us are in the like the physically the same place. So hopefully we'll do a little business planning talk. All just look deeply into each other's eyes and reaffirm our commitments to each other.
Just hold each other. Is it like going to be one of the first times you guys see each other in a long time?
All in the same physical locate. All of us at once. Yes, but between like the tour, I mean, we did the shows in the New York shows in December, so Matt was out for those. But it certainly will be the only time that we've all been hanging out also with Amber for a while. So that's also good.
The band's back together. That's crazy.
Whole band's back together.
Yeah, bring those pale boys to the beach. Amber, I don't know how she'll handle. She's pretty fair too, but you gotta set those guys up on the beach, record the podcast. They need some sun.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's I usually try and do this with music, but I have family that lives down there. And have you ever had Hodads?
Hodads? What is Hodads? I've not heard of that one.
Oh my God. All right, buckle up. This is I've had this burger when I was 13 years old. I am 26 years old.
Okay.
It's been 13 years since I've had this burger. I'm still talking about it. It's in Southern California. There's a couple places now. They even have one in the stadium. That's how much it's blown up. Like in the in the what is it? The Padres Stadium. Like it's pretty good. They take like bacon, boil it, make it to a patty. It's like his whole thing, dude. It like blew my mind, this burger. And I'm a fat guy. I love me some good cheeseburgers. This thing, it'll change your life. Like I see.
I'm looking it up right now. I do love a local favorite. I mean, that's what you got to do. And that's why this Southern tour that we're about to do, coming up in late February and in March, is just going to be absolutely dangerous for me because I just know it's every single place. It's going to every meal, local favorites, and every single meal. In the South, I'm sure I'm going to be hearing worse than boiled bacon patty for every single one of these. And I'm going to eat them all.
That's just the first stage of this patty. Then they fry it on the grill. It's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to have a wedding in June, so I'm trying to watch my figure a little bit. But between this vacation here and the Southern tour, I already know I'm losing this fight.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
But you can't knock the stuff in the South. One of my friends just moved to Texas, and he's just sending me videos of the supermarket. The shit they have at the supermarket is wild, let alone just the fast food chains everywhere and the exclusive fast food chains to the South. My first time in San Diego, I had Dave's Hot Chicken. Never even heard of that. I was like, this is a slider. It was the size of my fist.
See, because my mom lives in San Diego, I'm usually just doing like family meals there. I've not really investigated the local favorites of things like that. I mean, I get the fish tacos. I usually make a point to do that, but Hodaddy's I've never heard of. The Dave's, what is this? The Dave's Hot Chicken. I do love a punishing hot chicken.
They're from Tennessee, so if you're going that way in the South, I'd probably go to the actual place, not one of the chains.
So I'll look it up while I'm there.
That's an interesting too. I want to talk about Chapo Trap House in the South. What's that like?
We don't know. We've never been there yet. But basically, as long as the show has existed, people have been saying, Chapo, come to Texas, sweetie. And we're finally, once as quarantine was winding down, when we were able to start touring again, we were basically like, the first place we got to do is we finally got to do the Southern tour. Very excited about it. I think that I'm hoping that people are going to be excited to see us there. I am excited to see everybody there. The people who show up at Chapo shows are usually very, very nice and warm and accepting, happy to see us. So it's always good to play out. I'm very much looking forward to hanging out with everybody in the South, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we don't get run out of town by good old boys with pitchforks.
Oh,
but
maybe.
I don't think that that's going to happen.
I don't know.
My mom is actually very, very worried for our safety as we go to the South, which I think is very sweet and preposterous. But I'm pretty sure that she has been cable news brain poisoned into believing that every place in the American South is like Deliverance, but with MAGA hats.
Just sit her down with Matt. Oh, actually, it's probably not a good idea. Never mind. Don't sit her down with Matt. He'll probably double her down into that. Yeah, I don't think you'll get chased out of anywhere with some pitchforks, but again, I listen to the show. Felix has got some mouth on him. He might get into some trouble. You never know.
Yes, I mean, we'll see. Usually our crowd's pretty self-selecting. Honestly, hilariously, out of all the shows that I've done with them, the biggest time that there's been actual tension between like a heckler and us on stage was when we were in Detroit and they were mouthing off against like Ivy League schools for some reason. Like talking about making normal jokes at the expense of like Yale and Princeton or something. And some guy got real pissed in the audience and was like yelling at the stage to like defend the honor of Princeton or Yale or something. And it was disruptive enough that they actually like say stuff on the stage like shut the fuck up, get this guy out of here.
Wow.
And just like of all the shit that we talk and of all the places we've been, that some guy in Detroit was like, this slander against Yale cannot stand, and I need to disrupt the show for it. It's very funny to me.
Yeah, I was just listening to like the Irish podcast too when you guys were over in Ireland. It was, I think, Dublin. Yeah. I mean, I'm half Irish. I understand what my people can do, and like the way they handled that crowd was pretty good. Like, Ivy League, I don't even know, like, but bootlickers, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can handle the drunk Irish, but the Ivy Leagues, it's too much.
Yeah, I was just like trying to like scan the crowd for somebody in like a pale yellow polo with like a sweater draped over their shoulders, being like, "Well, I never."
It's like you're looking. It's like, you ever see Waterboy?
Oh yeah.
When he's kicking off, who's my bitch? Who's my bitch?
Yeah, exactly.
Who am I pissing off today? Make sure the lighting guy knows exactly where he's sitting.
Or I heard this story once that the drummer from the band Cant would in the beginning and during shows would try to pick one guy in the audience and direct all his energy towards that guy and try to make that random guy in the audience throw up from the intensity of his drumming. I like to think I do that with my producing at the live shows.
That's very Gigi Allen-esque, very avant-garde, but there's a good way to go about things. I actually was that guy in the crowd once. I was at a Hobo John. You ever hear Hobo Johnson?
I know Hobo Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, so they were playing in Forest Hills, the tennis courts.
Hobo Johnson played the tennis court?
Yeah, dude. Right before
it's so nice and austere there. That does not seem like Hobo Johnson's vibe.
Yeah, they opened for Portugal.
Oh, okay.
So it was like a real weird kind of mix of things. I was going to see Hobo. I'm like, this band is sick. I'm like, this is the kind of music I like this level of music. That's my shit.
Mm-hmm.
I come running in, singing all the songs. Frank, the lead singer, he goes, "It took this one guy to come running." He pointed at me. This one guy come running in to just gives the entire energy of the show. I was like, "I'm here to see you," and he goes, "Stop lying to yourself." I was wasted, but it was fun. A good energy show.
I feel like the Forest Hills, it's such a funny venue because it's like they have the like strict sound curfews there because everybody who lives within earshot of the venue is like 95 years old
and a millionaire.
Live there forever. Yeah. But everything I see there, it's always like it's like a night with Paul Simon. Or I saw like Interpol do all of Turn Off the Bright Lights there. And Interpol's like a rockin' band, but in that context, it was like, we're having a nice, gentle retrospective of a classic album that we're just going to play through, and everybody's going to have a nice time being like, yes, this is good music. Thank you, Interpol.
No, that was not the experience I had.
Well, I'm glad you were bringing the energy up there.
Well, the band was bringing it too, and then Portugal came out, and they were just having a good time. It was a good concert, but
Portugal is a very fun live band.
A weirder mix of music for the show, but it was good. So again, when I did a deep dive on you, you do some music and you have a musical podcast. Is that where you started? And you start in music?
I've always liked playing. I've never gotten anything together like serious enough to be real. I played in some basically like fake bands in Brooklyn. I mean, we like played out, and I've done shows at places like Knitting Factory and God, some of the old DIY places that are now closed. That I even forget the names of, but I've never done anything serious. I try to like compose and write a little stuff sometimes. I played in bands in college and stuff, but yeah, I was always been a music guy. I was also a college radio DJ. That was a very formative experience
It was one of the best times
to
of my
me.
life.
Yeah, it's great. College radio rocks. I try not to valorize and nostalgize too much or rhapsodize too much about university experience, but that definitely was one of the things that.
I do. Look at
Um,
that. That's the logo right
oh hell
there.
yeah! But it was such a great experience because it opened my eyes to so much broad, weird music, and also gave me experience like running a thing that was like real. Like our college radio station, is one of the largest broadcast ones in the country, I believe, broadcasting to all the Chicagoland area, and it felt like
Wow.
real responsibility to keep that thing operating and operating competently and somewhat professionally. And when you're like a 17, 18, 19-year old shithead, uh, that's very difficult because
Yeah.
doing anything competently is basically impossible. But also, it's good training of being like, okay, this is a lot of responsibility that they will give me to operate this thing that theoretically like 6 million people could be listening to. I mean, they're not, but they could
It
be
could
tuning
be.
into at
Yeah,
any
you never
time.
know. Wait, so I'm assuming you were the engineer, right?
I did a bunch of roles. I mean, we all engineered ourselves when we were DJing, and then I also like helped run and program various aspects of the show or the station from like our started off in our running our late night block, and then eventually ran the like rock show block, and even was the general manager for one
Okay.
summer just because I was like the only guy who was still in town. So they were like, "You have to do this," and I was like, "Do I?" I don't really want to, and they're like, "No, you have to do this. You're the only one in town to run the station."
That sucks. Yeah, I've been there before.
It was fun.
So I was the chief engineer. They gave me, like you said, a 19-year-old shithead. I add stoner and frat boy on top of that shithead.
Mhm.
They handed me keys to the radio station and an office. They're like, here you go, bud.
Yes.
Take this. And within like a year and a half, the school then gave me $25,000 to build a podcast station and rehands all the equipment. I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen that much money. I'm like,
Yeah, exactly. At a certain level, yeah, you get into those weird things where it's like because the institution has been operating a certain way for so long, you're like, yeah, I took on various leadership positions. At a certain point, I had like keys to like four different private rooms in the university, and I'm like, this this feels like a mistake. I feel like I'm scamming someone
yeah.
here to that they should not have let me have this, but it's a good time to figure out how to do things,
I mean, sure, but then we took 10 grand of that or like 5 grand of that money and sponsored a festival. And like
Yep.
it was, we did some crazy stuff and I ran a stage at a festival, like a, upstate street fair, but it's one of the largest upstate street fairs in New York. Three
Yeah.
stages. I had one of them. And it's like you said, a good learning experience because I was learning on the job what different cables were. Right? I'm like, how do I even get this as speaker to work? They're like, you need these kinds of cables. I'm running up and down the street, begging like real professional engineers in like their 40s and 50s who don't want to deal
Yeah.
with a fucking 21-year-old. Right? I was like, I just need two speak on cables. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that's what the internet said. I don't know. They hand me these two 50-pound racks. So I'm running with 100 pounds on my shoulders
Yeah, yeah,
down
yeah.
the street. Some crazy shit. And the only got out of that is a medium shirt. I am an extra large.
Yeah, I mean, along the same lines, like the few things that we would, get get the university to like give us money to pay like Phil Elverum or like the Sick Alps to come in and perform, and like all of us like music nerds at the radio station are like, this feels like we've tricked somebody into doing something, but it's a fucking university. They can afford $200 to $500 to bring somebody like the Sick Alps in. But to us, this seems like I can't believe we're getting away with this. Somebody from like the dean is going to come in any minute and be like, "Oh, radio kids."
He's like, how dare you spend that money? I'm like, we need a new
exactly.
mixer. I just see, like, I still follow them. They just bought a whole new live board, right? I'm like, that's gotta be another 20 grand. So I'm like, whatever I did didn't fuck up their money situation, which is good to know. Yeah, but it's just like crazy. Like, it's like the networking there that I did helped me so much now with this podcast. So there's this band, go Prince Daddy and the Hyena, an upstate like rock band that I love them.
Cool name.
Yeah, cool name. But a lot of the DIY shows I either ran or was at, and I've had them in studio, but they're now starting to blow up, which was like, hey, I've worked with so-and-so. When I reach out to bands and they're like, oh shit, those are my boys. I was like, yeah, I know. I do a little bit of research when I check people out. They're like, yeah, of course I'll come on your show. And like my biggest guest so far, like, it's like 100,000 followers because I worked with these guys in a basement in Albany a couple of years ago, like literally, and it's sick.
Getting to work with musicians has been one of the biggest joys of doing Chapo. And every time that, I find out that, a musician that I likes the show, I'm like, oh my God, I'm fanboying. It's great. Like getting to do the Frequency Festival last year was like one of the honors of my life, to be able to like put all that stuff together and actually like get bands I like to do a show. And get pods that I like to play together. I would very much like to do something like that again, because it feels like one of my favorite extensions of the kind of stuff that I get to do because of Chapo. And I love putting on a good time for people. Hopefully we'll do another Frequency sometime and people can actually attend physically as well as digitally. And I get to book more bands and get more people in front of them, or get them in front of more people, and hopefully they can find new folks. And that was one of my favorite things about doing Frequency is most of the people who tuned in specifically for Chapo, but a lot of people afterwards were like, hey, I had never heard of any of these bands, and I came away with like 2 new favorite groups. This was great. And I was like, that is absolutely the best thing that I could, the most heartening thing that I could hear.
That's what I experienced talking to a lot of people in the industry, like producers wise, essentially. They're like, man, we all wanted to get involved somehow in music, but like that didn't happen until later on, until a little more established. I'm like, yeah, dude. I'm like, I started in basements in Albany with musicians. Like, it's like you gotta work your way up to it. Like, it sucks, but like when you have that like start in music, or like starting like kind of like, or like just love for music, you'll always want to go back to that. And you'll always like, I remember just working with the bands is just like another great experience. Unless you have one of those prima donna bands. I did threaten to slap a bass player. I was like, you don't fuck with me. I'm from Queens, dude. I'm not from some bumblefuck nowhere town in Albany. You can't get your bass to work. Like, don't blame me.
I mean, and also because I know it's so tough to be a musician and you have to be so dedicated to make it work. It's also another thing that like I will try to do anything in my power to help out musicians and like and I was gonna say musicians that I like, but I don't have to actually love your music to want to help you out.
To work with you,
I think you're a good person who's worth working with. And it's Chapo's popular. We're not as popular. We're both more and less popular than I feel like people try to say that we are. But what little influence we have, if I can help musicians with it, I would like to do it.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean by the popularity thing that you're saying, because I've been fangirling for this since you agreed months ago. It's like, I'm gonna get Chris from Chapo on. Holy shit, we're getting closer to the circle. Like, we're gonna be in the Brooklyn podcast circle. Like, we're gonna make it. Like, stuff like that. Everyone's like, what's Chapo Trap House? I was like, oh Jesus Christ. I was like, listen to it. Just listen to it, and you'll understand. But most of my friends aren't podcast people.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because sometimes in some of the podcast circles, I guess our reputation kind of precedes us. But I usually like to say, give it a shot, and I bet the show is both smarter and stupider than you think it is.
So funny. I just think it's so funny. I watch like all the clips on YouTube and stuff, which I don't know how you feel about that YouTube economy. I hear there's a good mixed reviews about the YouTube clip economy. that generates behind bigger shows and streamers?
Oh, like the people who like fan clip shows. I'm
Yes.
always a fan of people who fan clip shows if they're doing it in a way that they're just like they like they clearly like the show and just want to share funny clips of it. I think that is always good. I'm always a fan of those people, and I know that some of our biggest clip channels, like there's one called Acid Marxist got banned like a month
He's
ago,
back.
and I was legitimately disappointed, like very saddened when I saw that they got banned, because I'm like, they do a great job curating stuff from the show, but then they're back on, and I'm very happy to see them. The ones that piss me off is that every once in a while you'll see something that's like clearly like automated or an algorithm or something that's just like mercenarily posting full every episode, like no curation, with like automatically generated images and stuff that they're just trying to like draft views off the name of the show.
Yep.
That stuff I will report if I see them getting like too obnoxious. But fan clippers, I think, are great, and I support them. And if you like doing it, you should do it. And if you really like doing it, you should maybe get in touch with me, and maybe I'll pay you to do it for us.
Ooh, look at that. Well, I'm the only one that listens to this podcast, so I'll give you my email. No, because I see a lot of it, like Hassan Piker a lot. It's fucking egregious. There's like 1,000 channels that do his, but again, also with Cumtown, they have another one where some guys are they're fans of the show. They put the show out. They come back, you have to rebrand the channel because the content is what the content is. But there's other people that like deliberately like are editing out like swear words and stuff to just make that monetary gain. And I'm like, yo, that's like the antithesis of Cumtown. Like
it is, but that is so genuinely insane and obsessive to do for Cumtown.
Yes,
that I kind of have to respect it.
That they like to make money
doing like PG rated Cumtown is like almost a weird performance art project of its own right. And at a certain level, I'm like, I have not heard those. I'm sure it must be like weird and stilted in like an almost like Lynchian way. I want to go check those things out. I mean, again, if somebody was making the trouble to censor and PG-rise Chapo, I'm like, I guess at a certain level, I'd be like, man, if you want to put in the time on that, I guess I got to respect it.
Sure, you're in the minority then, because everybody just curses these people out in the comments, and I go to the comments, and it's just so funny. They're like, "How dare you? 8-minute clip, only 4 minutes of talking." That is a lot of the content they're working with. It's true, but okay, we're nearing towards the last quarter of the show, and this is a question I like to ask almost everybody, not my musicians, because that's whatever, we won't get into that, but it's like when you're editing and when you're doing all your stuff, what are you listening to? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you listening to music? Are you movie guy, music, TV? Like, what do you got?
Well, the worst thing about editing podcasts professionally is that you can't listen to podcasts while you're doing it. At this point, I've got like my handful of shows of pods that I listen to pretty regularly. I try to keep up with new music, but honestly, when we're in a serious and intro groove, I mostly just like do deep dives into whatever we're listening to and introducing, which is good because we keep the show very diverse and listen to talk about a lot of different things. Some of it are more my favorites. Some of it are things that I honestly probably wouldn't listen to, but it's nice to just like do deep dives and things and be like, all right, what is the deal with this? Like let me try to understand this. I don't know. I watch a lot of movies. I watch shows when they're good. I listen to a lot. I imbibe a lot of content, or at least I try to.
Yeah, well, I was just pulling up your last episode where you're talking a lot of TikTok music, which that's a new whole mishmash, like the generation. It's combining so much different stuff. If I go back, this is like, I say it's notorious because I feel so bad saying this out loud now, but like last year when I was doing this podcast, I was like, you got to listen to 100 Gex. They suck. Like blah, 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 blah. A week later, I have every 100 gex song in my playlist downloaded. I'm like, I love this band. They're amazing. They're geniuses. Because like once you peel back like the sound and see what they're actually doing, they're like marrying metalcore and hip hop and all this other weird EDM influences into it, and it's just incredible. And a lot of these are like younger kids and I guess like older musicians too getting on TikTok. Like this TikTok generation of musicians are doing that. They're marrying these genres that you'd never seen before.
Yeah, I Gex. I mean, I get why people. I get like the joke about Gex is that it's like it is so abrasive. And I get why people who are like maybe not used to like listening to like metalcore would be like, this is too insane. This is like too much music for me. But I think like once, as you said, like once you like consider it and listen to it, you're like, oh no, these are real songs. They have like pop music structure. There's certainly a lot going on, and it's intense and loud and like sometimes abrasive. But like, if you just don't like immediately turn off and say like, I've listened to this for 2 seconds and it's too insane and I cannot even engage with it. Like, there's stuff to like all over it. So the last episode of Bandage we're doing that you're referring to, we were talking about the singer Gail. Who got big on TikTok. But the thing about her is I would say that she's actually a fairly traditional singer-songwriter type. And that it doesn't really have that like hyper pop sensibility of something like 100 gex,
which is
or
I guess
like the more industrial sides of that style music. It's just that she got big, or that song became big on TikTok, even if it's a fairly traditional song. And our episode is kind of about, okay, so did this occur naturally on TikTok? Was this planned by her record label? And if it was planned, if it was seeded, does that matter? Does that make her a good or lesser musician? And should you care about stuff like, basically like devised corporate stunts on a social media platform to like get an artist big? Does that even matter in the long run? So that's basically what that episode's about.
Everybody does that though. Like that's not like a crazy thing. Like I'm out here putting things on social media. Everybody does what they have to do. Just because a label is behind somebody doesn't mean they're not going to do the same tactics at work.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think it's a very interesting. I thought that was an interesting episode. That was Molly's suggestion for a topic, and at first I also kind of curmudgeonly was a little like, I don't know if I want to talk about some TikTok song, but Molly put together an excellent episode for that. And shout out to Ryan Broderick's Garbage Day newsletter, which is a lot of our source material for that. A great internet newsletter. So I don't know. It's a good episode.
All right, check it. We've got to check it out. I'll put the links in the description below.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. I'll put everything in the description. All your links, all your stuff. Found your resume. I'll put that in there too.
Oh, please don't share my resume.
I'm taking a lot of like inspiration from it. I was like, this is how I have to write this out and put that.
Oh God. I mean, I was severely unemployed for like the year leading up to first getting the Chapo gig. And I rewrote that thing like 1,000 times. I mean, you have to rewrite your resume basically every time you apply for a job, but it's
I paid someone.
It's a nightmare.
I was like, here. I found some company in Missouri. It's like charges $300. I was like, here you go. Here's money. Figure this shit out for me. I don't know what I'm doing. It's like a whole science though. It's like ways to get around the computer systems and all this other stuff. I'm like, but can you just check out my podcast and you'll understand that I know how to do all this stuff? And they're like, nah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I have not had to apply for a job in a while, because the computer stuff seems genuinely insane. I mean, I've only ever gotten one job that I like actually like found a job posting and applied to. And that was like one of the first big jobs that I got. And I'm pretty sure like basically after whenever that would have been like 2011, 2012, that just stopped existing. I don't know if you can like apply to a job anymore. You basically just have to know somebody.
I cold call for mine. Like it's not like even one of those things anymore. You literally just have to be overtly aggressive with people. It's crazy. And that, again, it brings us back to what we were talking about before, why I built like this like mini studio in my house.
Yeah.
You need to get the mic, you need to get the monitors, need to get all this shit. And being cheap bit me in the ass a couple times.
I don't know. I think the combination of persistence but politeness, and which is again what as I said, like when you ask me to do this, I'll do the show. Can't do it now. Hit me up in 3 months. You did, and like I think that's the kind of thing that goes a long way. If you show that you are dedicated to something, but also aren't irritating about it.
Yeah, that's why I came in with the SpongeBob meme. Hey, you finished with those errands yet, Squidward?
Yes, exactly.
Just to kind of ice break it. But I learned this yesterday though when I was speaking with the musician I had on. He was like, sometimes you got to be a little curt with people. He goes, but like when he said it to me, he goes, the way you sent your message was how I knew you took your podcast seriously. I was like, oh, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, it's just kind of something I wrote up because like it seemed professional enough and open enough to like you could say no if you don't want to, but like there's no in the statement itself, you know?
Yeah, and I also think that there's another like you see the kind of like, so I wrote a thing type of, and I'm guilty of this as well, is like bragging about stuff that you do and being assertive about it kind of sucks, and you don't want to be like out there on social media being like, look how great all my shit is all the time. But then there's the opposite end where it's like, people might have projects like this and like feel ashamed by it and like approach being like, hey, I understand that you're super busy. I have this stupid little thing that nobody listens to, and like if you don't want to do it, that's fine, but maybe you would want to come and like that kind of leads with being like, oh, this even the host of the show doesn't really care about it. But
Yeah.
if you come and be like, I do the show, I have fun on it, I'd love to have you on. I can do it literally whenever you have time, and anytime in the future. I think, again, as I was saying, I think people are more flattered than not to be invited on podcasts.
And yeah, it's a lot of people have been said that too. Like, just reach out, and that's what I tell people. I consult a lot through my job. It's like, yo, like just peel the band-aid off. Some people might leave you unread. Okay, congratulations. There you go. On to the next one. I'm like, it's like dating. Like 99% of the time, it's not gonna work out. Like you gotta find, like the person that says yes.
Like, again, I'm super guilty of this. Like I'm still trying to set up some show dates for our Southern tour, and we have a show booking agent who we use for most things, but I'm trying to get a few other like extra smaller shows in, and I was just like sending some booking request emails to some venues, and it took me like an hour and a half to write a 3-sentence email, just because I'm not used to writing those kinds of things. I don't know what like the professional language is, and I'm just like beating myself up over this email, being like, oh, how do you ask somebody if you can play in their venue? Are they going to think that I'm not professional enough about this? Oh no, our website links, does everything look too like goofy and weird? Are they not going to? And I'm like, just send the stupid email,
just
Chris.
Send it out.
Yeah, just do it.
Because what's on the other side of that? Who's answering that email? Like,
I sent the email, and after beating myself over this email, I sent it out, and like 3 minutes later, I get the reply being like, know the show, know that you're coming in town, would love to host you guys. Let's set something up. Let's make it work. And I was like, see, more often than not, it's going to come back positive. So you just got to do it.
I grew up always hearing the squeaky wheel gets the oil. and regardless of how it happens, listen, it's gonna happen. All right. I've like we've meandered past this somehow, but I want to go back to like festivals and stuff. I'm happy you bring up back. There's I don't know if you heard this one that was just announced. So
the emo throwback nostalgia festival.
I'm wearing the Prince Daddy shirt that we just talked about. But like, this is like I was saying to people, I was like, you'll catch me in Vegas raw next to your girl. Like, this is gonna be the best show ever. But again, I don't know if it's what's a festival like, especially nowadays. How do you like set that up? I know you guys did half digital, half some in person.
I think that people at this point are like pretty like, if you go in and are just like vaccine proof mandatory, people feel pretty normal. Like, I've only been to one big one last year, which is that my wife Molly and I went to Riot Fest in Chicago, which is like a lot of like punk bands and stuff like that. And that was in September, which this year in retrospect was, I guess, like a pretty okay time. Well, I guess who fucking knows? Everybody, it was vaccine mandatory at the door, and then once you got in, everybody seemed to feel pretty normal, and we didn't see anything afterwards that there was any like COVID spike there. So the thing was that's the COVID situation, and then the other thing was is that was a palpable feeling, at least back then in September, that the bands were so excited to fucking play,
Get back out there,
and the people in the audience were so excited to see bands back that it really did feel like a very special connection between audience and artists right then. That did feel really nice. I think one of the ones that felt the best was one of the headliners was Smashing Pumpkins, and it was their first show in like maybe 2 years, and it was in Chicago, and like it was so funny to see like Billy Corgan up there and sometimes just like positively beaming with like how
which
like
is rare for
you
him.
know it's yeah, exactly, just it's kind of a funny mood to see him in, of just being like almost like giddy and silly, of being like, oh, I'm so happy to be back playing Smashing Pumpkins song for all my fans in Chicago. It's like it was great. They slayed.
And you can see the averse of that too. So again, one of the bands I had, the guitar player, they went on tour. Mom Jeans. I forgot.
Oh, you
Like,
talked to Mom Jeans. They're very good.
yeah. So I talked to the guitar player Bart. When they went on tour, right? I had to text the guitar player for a ticket, like because it sold out instantly. People are ready to get back out there, and unfortunately, they got COVID as a band and canceled the show. So, yeah, it sucks.
I mean, yeah.
But I've seen them before. It's no big deal. But like the excitement, the tickets are selling out for even a band like them who are not like overtly famous
They're not
or anything.
They're good. They have name recognition, but they're not Smashing Pumpkins, you know.
They're not Smashing Pumpkins, or they're not like My Chemical Romance or Paramore. Yeah. The headlining of these shows, that's going to sell out. It's probably already sold out. Like they're probably doing pre-sales. It's already done.
That's not quite my music scene, but I know you see from immediately when they knew exactly who they were targeting with that festival, and yes, the people who are into that scene will like, yes, that will sell out immediately, and those people will have the fucking time of their lives at that fest. And you know, I wish them all the best. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean,
I wish I could go.
We're hoping to have more shows in Chapo shows sometime in October. I think I could say that. I'm not going to say where or when, but so I might be back on tour then. But I think Molly is pretty seriously planning on going to that festival, so maybe catch her there.
Listen, like I said, I'll be there. The bangs down, the bleach blonde, the spiky. I'll be going.
Yeah, like all the way across your eyes. Yes. The tightest, low risiest jeans. Yes,
they're in the closet. We're ready. I was was me in high school. I will bring that ready to go. Okay. One last question before you start doing your plugs, as we're nearing an hour. So like
hell yeah,
you go back to your vacation. So you said in October maybe you don't want to give out dates. Are you coming back to New York? Are we doing New York shows? Is that something you could say?
I think I can. Yeah, I think I could say this. We're basically. I think that our plan is before the right before the midterm elections to do just a handful of, I'll say this, major market shows in like big cities, and try to do big as basically as big of a venue as we can reasonably get for us. And because I know that our last New York show sold out pretty quickly, and we do want to make sure that everybody who wants to see us can see us. So I think the plan is to, and I think I can say this, I don't think that I'm going to like spike this plan by announcing it, try to do like fairly large shows so everybody who wants to see us can see us. And I can fairly certainly say at least one of their shows will be in New York. So hopefully October.
I will see you there then.
Around then ish.
Listen, that's great. I will be trying to get tickets. If not, I will be bothering you again. I'm just playing. Is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything else you have to say? Any grievances?
No. Podcasting rocks. I'm happy you're doing one. If anybody is listening to this and is on the fence about wanting to do this or start trying to do it, just do it. And if you're passionate about it, and keep doing it. And you can probably ask basically anybody who does a podcast to be on your podcast, and they will at least try to make it work. And podcast producers, if you figure out who they are, who's behind the knobs on your show, we will. I feel confident saying like bend over backwards to support anybody who's out there doing DIY pods of any size about anything. So I'm thank you very much for having me on the show.
No, thank you.
I love that you're doing it.
Yeah, but it's good. The producer thing. That's I haven't said it like out loud, but that's kind of been my like thinking. I was like, I'm gonna go after the producers. We're like-minded people. So I had have you ever heard of the show Alien Theorists Theorizing? So it's a
but that sounds great.
It's a good show. It's a really good show. They're like all over. I had their producer and like one of their co-hosts, Zell, on, and it was just like it's the same thing. It's like, work at the studio, you do this, you do that. It's like everyone's kind of got like a gritty fucking like you're gonna have to be poor for a while story, and it makes me like feel more reassuring too. And especially the way I'm going about things. So like, I was just thank you so much for like kind words and just coming on, spending time with me.
No, thanks for having me so much.
All right. Yeah. And that'll be the end of the show. If you guys want to see, do you want to plug in your social medias?
Yeah, I'm at Say What Again on Twitter. The music pod is at and intro pod on Twitter. Chapo Trap House. I don't need to plug that. You can find it if you want to. The one thing I will say is it might be irrelevant by the time this goes up, but I am 900 subscribers away from getting 100,000 subscribers on the Chapo YouTube page. And when I do that, I can get YouTube to send me a little trophy, and I covet that trophy dearly. So if you do anything for me, it is go to youtube.com/Chapo Trap House and hit the subscribe button. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to watch the content. You just have to subscribe. And that's it. That is my one plaintive plea.
You're gonna get that, dude. Don't worry. I'm surprised you haven't gotten it already.
It's I don't want to talk too much about. We were talking about YouTube earlier. The thing that I absolutely refuse to do is kowtow to the soy face thumbnail. That is like every YouTube expert. I occasionally, people who are like YouTube SEO people will get in touch and be like, hey, I'll do some like consulting. I'd love to take a look at your channel and tell you what you can do better. And the number one thing they always say is every single thumbnail has to have a human face on it looking surprised. And that will
I hate that.
Markedly, immediately improve your viewership, your subscriptions. It works 100%. And I just aesthetically can't do that unless it's a joke. So I feel very proud of my my stubbornness, and to get to 100,000 subscribers with I think a very clean, aesthetic looking channel that I can be proud of, that I can go to sleep at night not ashamed of.
I hate that so much that oh my God, and it's all reaction quality. And again, good for you. You're making your money doing like reaction content. Sure, there's a lane you need to fill on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it's hands down one of the most laziest ways to make content. And I'm saying this with like a real bias, as a content creator, there's a way to critique other people's content without just being like, oh my God, this is crazy. Unoffended.
There are a lot of shows that I really like. A lot of channels I really like on YouTube that I think are shot very well, very elegantly, very classily. That I think have a lot of thought put into their production and their execution and their presentation. And then even those channels, you got to put the host, doing the Kevin McAllister face.
Yep.
On the thumbnail, even if that's the whole video is just a beautifully shot, silent video of somebody baking a pie or something.
Yeah, who does that really well? I don't know if he is aware of good for the algorithm, but Hassan, all his, even the other people that do it, have him doing little and he even poses for it on the stream, because I'm sure he's aware that helps.
Well, I mean, that guy puts out so much video content of his own face that it must be easy to pull from, even if he's not even doing it on purpose. I mean, respect to Hassan. He is an absolute beast of content.
I don't know how he does it. Again, we're going way over time now, but my man got shingles from streaming 18 hours a day for like he's like 27, 28. You shouldn't be getting shingles.
Look, that's dedication to the craft. And he goes out there every day and he puts in the time and he puts in the hours, and that's what it takes to be at the top of the game.
Yeah. Shout out to him, and he's doing great work by teaching like this. He's not black pilling like you guys are as bad.
Oh well, there's more hope in our show than people give us credit for.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot more hope, but like it's also a little bit more like seeing like the reality of the world.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but that's the end of the show. I don't want to keep him too long. He is on vacation. Once again, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on. It was a pleasure. It really was. It was a great conversation. Yeah, and if you want more of me, follow me on Twitter, AustinPiazza, or Austin Can't Afford at Instagram and Twitch. And this will be out probably, I don't know, within a week or two. I got a ton of podcasts coming. We're just booking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of the show, everybody. Thank you, and thank you again, Chris.
Thank you, Austin.
Jump.